The Survivor Specialists, Phil and Will, are back, and today we are recapping episode number 13 of Survivor 47, also known as Finale Part 1, if you will. I don't know why that's a thing. Will, how do you feel about Finale Part 1?
I might go as far to say finale. Like, that was the finale. For me, at least. Like, and unless something crazy happens, and honestly, even if something does, like, to me, this was the finale of Survivor 47, and next week's like the epilogue almost. It's like the denouement or something. Like, this was fantastic. I might even like this more than last week. I was laughing, thinking, just enjoying this so thoroughly, and it was so good throughout. Yet, my two favorite players that I was rooting for got eliminated, and I actually don't foresee next week being all that great. And so that's why I don't really want to call it part one, Phil. I want to say this was the finale of season 47. And I'll give you a quick analogy here. It almost felt like
one too.
A regular season game, not a playoff game, but a regular season game where your team is just battling back and forth, and it's just nonstop fun action. You don't know who's going to win. Your team loses in the end, but you're like, damn, that game was so much fun. That game was so good. And I remember going to a Laker-Warriors game in LA. I'm a Warriors fan, big Warriors fan. And like, I think Steph went for like 35 or 40. LeBron went for 50. It was back and forth, down to the wire in the fourth quarter. And, you know, the Lakers and LeBron win. It was whatever. Bummed. I was stoked on how much fun that game was. That's kind of how I'm feeling right now. I had so much fun with that, but I'm kind of like, this season, I don't think it's going to end all that well, if you're asking me. So that's kind of my vibe, but I loved the episode. Like, loved it.
I agree with you. Are you a Departed fan? The Martin Scorsese movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
So for anybody who's listening, if you haven't seen The Departed, this will mean nothing to you, and I'm not going to give like too much of a spoiler here, but all I'm going to say
hard not to, though.
Hard not to. So anyway, if you haven't seen it, it came out in 2006. You've had plenty of time. Pretty much what we just went through is the entire third act of The Departed tonight, right? Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio, Anthony Anderson, all these people. The question is there a Mark Wahlberg left?
Yeah, I was going to say, where's Marky? Where's Marky?
Is Sam Phelan Mark Wahlberg in The Departed? Or is Rachel just going to walk away with this game? That's all I can think about, because we just watched the bloodbath. And now the question is Sam going to pull the shocker? And I just don't see it happening. I think we did see everything come to an end tonight, and I do think that Rachel is ultimately going to win this game. But that is the only question we have, right, going into next week is it going to be Rachel or is it going to be Sam? Because unfortunately, and this is just sometimes the timing with reality TV, Will, you know better than most people, unfortunately, you just get your really dramatic moments out before the end game. And I do think that this could be part of the reason why we are getting 2 back-to-back 2-hour episodes rather than just a 3-hour finale. Because I almost think that it felt maybe a little too obvious to them to just do as a 3-hour finale and not have Andy or Genevieve. You know, Genevieve would have been involved right at the beginning. But I think that, you know, with the way they were editing it, I don't think there was much to give Sue or Teeny on this season. That's just my opinion. But there's nothing Survivor can do about the fact that one player just took out everybody who could beat them.
Yeah, and I don't even think we necessarily have to look at it as a negative thing. I think we can celebrate this season. And honestly, if somehow Genevieve made it through that vote somehow, she was in the final 4, and we were heading in next week to this matchup of Genevieve versus Rachel, and somehow one of them wins immunity, and then somehow the other one goes into fire making, and somehow they're both at final 3, I would be ready to put this season like top 10. Like, I have had so much fun. The past 3.5 hours of this show is the best Survivor has been in such a long time. But that is kind of how it happens. It's not like a scripted show where it's like, we're going to build up to this incredible finale and everything comes together and there's so much suspense. Anyone who's a Severance fan, you know what I'm talking about. The season 1 finale of Severance is absolutely incredible TV, and it's all designed and structured, and it just leaves you on a great cliffhanger, all of that. Can't wait for season 2. With reality TV, you don't get that. Like, your best segment of the season is behind us. Like, I'm almost sure of it. And it was fantastic, and we should celebrate it, and we should love it. Rachel would be the winner that is like the forecasted, predictable winner on top that we've seen coming for a while, which is not usually very satisfying, because you watch Survivor for surprise, suspense. Mm-hmm. You want to be on your toes. You don't want to know what's going to happen, and Rachel winning would be pretty predictable. The other 3 options, I don't have anything against any of them, really. I mean, they all seem like great people. Sue really has not done much of anything in this game. She at least could have used her idol in some creative way to like take some control or make some sort of move. She opted not to. Teeny has been pretty much confused and lost the entire post-merge, even the pre-merge, you could say. Sam seems like a cool guy. I like football. He's a football reporter. Would probably love to get a beer with him. What has he really done except just squeak by and survive? This has been a Rachel dominant post-merge for so much now. And her adversaries were Andy and Genevieve. Those were her two adversaries. And she wisely took out Andy instead of Sam in that first vote. And then, the writing was kind of on the wall for the Genevieve vote, though I do like how we were led to believe that there could be another outcome. Again, I don't want to sit here and be like, wow, we have a boring finale, a boring final four. Rachel's going to wrap this up. I don't want to sit here and talk about that. I want to celebrate the 2 hours we got tonight.
I totally agree with you. And I think that sometimes in this community, I've always talked about like we're results based in the Survivor community. Tribal council is the most important thing to people in a lot of episodes. But early on in early Survivor, there's so many great episodes where the boot didn't even matter. You don't even remember who went home half the time. And that's what's so awesome. Like after the Rupert boot in Pearl Islands, when Sandra comes back and she's dumping the fish and she's tripping over herself, and then everybody's blaming Krista. Who went home in that episode? Most people couldn't tell you who went home.
Can I guess?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It was shoot, I have no idea.
Don't look at the live chat. It was Tijuana.
Oh man.
Right. It was T goes home at 7, I believe, because Rupert was 8. But anyway, the whole point is like that episode is not based around the end game. And I think like a season like Survivor Gabon, and I don't want to say who the winner is because my wife's sitting right there and she has no idea who actually won Survivor Gabon. It's one of the few surprises she can have. But a season like Gabon, people are like, oh, that's so unsatisfying, like the ending, whatever. It's like, no, the chaos can be fun, but also like the build up to that end. The final tribal council doesn't have to be great. We can just watch Rachel take a victory lap on everybody, and that's going to be okay. And I hope that people don't knock 47 because of that and raise up a season like 46 just because Kenzie versus Charlie was so up in the air. Yeah, 46 has some epic moments. It's got a stretch like Micronesia where it's just like pure chaos nonstop. But the problem with 46 is a lot of it is random. A lot of it's not great gameplay. A lot of it's actually really bad gameplay and one or two players playing pretty good. This season has been phenomenal gameplay from start to finish. Everybody has brought it. I know that Teeny can't get out of her own way, but whatever. Like I'm not going to sit here and roast Teeny over the fire. I'm sure that Twitter and all you guys will do that for her. I'm sure she's going to love you all for it. But like this has been great gameplay. And if that means we're going to get a predictable final 3 because Rachel's just going to sit there and take it, or Sam is going to sit there and take it, fine. And if we get Rachel versus Sam in the final 3, that might still be a 6-2 vote. There's a potential. Sierra's going to vote for Sam. So who knows? I just hope people don't take it the wrong way. But I want to throw this comment up before it disappears. It's a super chat, and I always love those. Shane Cupp, is that Ohio State? That's a shame. Does Survivor feel the need to telegraph the winner since the backlash of Gabler? I don't personally think that this winner has been as telegraphed as maybe I have thought it was. I felt like Rachel was going to pull this, but Will, you've been talking about Andy legitimately has a chance. Other people talking about Genevieve. Edgic has been wrong for like the last 7 months. I don't feel like Rachel was as obvious to people aside from those of us who truly watch this show with a microscope and never stop looking. Do you disagree with that?
Well, I think a big part of why we're even having that conversation is because we have a 2-part finale. And I didn't want to address it earlier, but it's hard not to. I mean, we are now entering a whole week of Survivor discussion and podcasts and forums or whatever social media you want to get into. And there's only 4 players left. So, a lot of, all through the 30s, mainly it was 6 players left. In the new era, it's been 5. So even going down to 4, you're just reducing your options. In this final 4, it really does feel like there's one viable winner, maybe some, one Sam has like some sort of outside shot. Mm-hmm. That's just how it kind of crumbles with the broadcasting, though. I don't think this was like if Genevieve were still in tonight, like let's say we just ended it with the Andy boot and there's a 1 hour or a 90-minute episode. We have a normal finale with a final 5. This would be the battle of Rachel versus Genevieve. And you're at least going into a finale. You're going into a week where it's like, which one of these women are going to win? Or will we see the absolutely, chaos final 3 with Sue, Teeny, and Sam, which did get brought up tonight. So I think having a final 4 is maybe making it feel more a finale starting with the final four, making it feel a little bit more telegraphed than it otherwise would be.
I agree with that 100%. Of course, people are going to be talking about Andy, and I'm going to get into like Andy and Genevieve stands here. Don't think you're all safe, but worth playing for with the super chat. Do you think Andy's odds to return for 50 are higher because he didn't make Final Tribal Council, or would it have been higher if he did make Final Tribal Council?
I think it's probably higher that he didn't.
I honestly don't think it matters. I think Andy is a lock, man. I think
Probably.
Andy was a lock whether he made Final Tribal, as long as they were going to, as long as he doesn't win the game, because let's say they're not asking winners, which I think has been a little bit of a rumor on the interwebs lately. I know Redmond has been putting some stuff out. Not that I follow Redmond,
but
but
seems like an odd choice.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in another podcast, right? But there has been that discussion that potentially no winners. Andy, if he's eligible to come back for 50, I think he is an absolute lock. And here's the thing that I find so amazing about Andy's game. On day one, this guy was totally lost, has a panic attack, doesn't know what to do with himself. He's screwed. On day 3, he has a meltdown in front of the entire cast. Everybody is losing, everybody's like making fun of him. He's the butt of every joke. And on day 23, he makes such an incredible pitch to Rachel that it actually gets him voted out of the game, because all of a sudden she realized, oh shit, you could make this pitch at Final Tribal and you could beat me. And for that arc to be his arc, there's no way this man isn't on season 50. I mean, it's just absolutely, that almost feels like your scripted portion, right? It's like the guy who was going to die in episode 1, who was the coward, is now the person who is the hero, who's going in and doing the freaking suicide run. Like, it's unbelievable what Andy pulled off.
Yeah, what a mistake, though. Right?
Yeah, big time.
I mean, basically gives his final tribal council speech to a potential jury member, and then this jury member happens to, on her way to the jury, at least has an idol and is like, I'm not going home, and I might have to sit next to you, and I don't want to anymore, sorry. Mm-hmm. Goodbye. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that before. Can you even think of something like, because Andy was just doing straight up jury management, and I don't really know what it was from this group of 6 here that were so confident, or I guess group of 4, because Sue did know, that these 4 just did not consider that Rachel could have an idol, because especially 3 out of the 4 of those players know that Genevieve's idol isn't real, and 4 out of 4 of those players didn't even know about Sue's idol. So they're just sitting there at Final 6 being like, oh, I guess there's just no idols this whole season, this whole post.
You know what it is? Here's what I think happened.
When they convinced themselves that Genevieve was actually real, even though they all had the idea. Was that it?
I actually think that there's a logical answer to this. Okay. When Rachel was when she was stuck with the Tukus and she was going to go home, she had no idol. She was done, and she knew she was done, and she knew she was getting voted out, and everybody knew that she had no way of protecting herself, right? After that, she only went on one journey, and she got the block a vote, and everybody knew she got the block a vote. The way she got the clue to this idol was in the French fries at the auction. And I think because they couldn't add up the fact of, oh, she went on another journey, or there was some other way that she could have grabbed this. I think everybody just assumed that there was never another idol put in play that she could have then gone and found, because she never left camp. So I actually think the way that she got this idol clue, which was in the French fries, helped her so much. And the fact that when she did go on the journey and everybody essentially found out about the block a vote, I just feel like that was huge for her.
Yeah, I hear what you with the block a vote, that like she didn't get an idol on the journey because they're not going to give her 2 things on the journey. We know she got this one kind of newish, or at least kind of unique item, and she wouldn't make that up, and it seems legit, and then she eventually uses it. But what happened to just finding a good old clue around camp? Is that like, that's still, it's not like that's been eliminated.
I mean, and that's how Sue got hers, right? She found it at camp. I mean, that's how Gabe got his.
It was a Beware Advantage. We had the Beware Advantage boxes to start this season, and then I think we had, other shenanigans at camp. So I mean, that's where idols are traditionally found. And so I think the only person that was like, maybe something's up, is Genevieve. She's like, Rachel might have something.
Yeah,
there's fully a world where that happens. But Yeah, Andy, a little too heavy-handed with his pitch. I actually thought that in Andy's pitch that he was going to say Genevieve's idol isn't even real. Like,
Yeah.
I came up with that because he's at least free to say that this vote because Genevieve's wearing the necklace. And then she would go and tell Teeny and Sue. And I thought that's where it's coming out. I was going, no, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. And then once Andy got sent home, it was kind of writing on the wall for Genevieve. You knew Sam was going to spill that. And obviously we had mentioned the preview had something about there's a fake idol and it was going to come out. But even despite like not even knowing about the preview, you knew it was in Sam's best interest to be like, guys, Genevieve doesn't even have an idol. Take her out. Don't take me out. It's pretty obvious from him.
What's so unbelievable about that, though, is that the lying has been so top tier on this season and the gameplay has been so stellar from everybody, essentially everybody, that when that information came out, they still didn't know whether they should believe it or not because they were like, well, does Sam and Genevieve have something? Like, it's so obvious to us as viewers because we're like, that's the only way Sam can save himself.
Yeah, right. But it actually made sense what they were saying. That if Genevieve has an idol and it's real and she's going to play it anyway, then they're going to put all the votes onto Sam and Sam's going to go home. So how is Sam going to save himself? That idol isn't real.
Yeah.
It's, of course, the perfect plan that you would do if you're Sam in that position. So, I mean, that's, again, why I enjoyed the episode so much. It was just these plans and Teeny's head spinning, had my head spinning because, and Genevieve was so coy about it. Like, yeah, he said that? Yeah, it is fake. As like the demeanor she has said every other lie she has said this season. Really, those shenanigans are fun. I mean, those were unique Survivor shenanigans, and we often don't get that. And I know, last week a lot of people were saying best move ever, best move of the new era, and then you have people on the other side being like, guys, it was a split vote. Let's what are we talking about here? This is just a plurality vote. Why are we getting up in arms about this being the best? To me, the stuff we saw tonight was just new. It felt like new, fresh Survivor, and that was definitely one of them. This like Genevieve saying her idol's fake so confidently. Does that mean it's right? Like we really have not gone? It's uncharted territory, and there might be some similar things, but not like what we saw tonight.
It's so tough, man. And I just want to address, I saw we got another super chat. It's from James Barker. And look, I appreciate getting the super chat here. I'm never going to read a spoiler out loud. I'm never going to read that somebody might have spoiled something out loud like this confidently, especially because then people can go look it up. So I appreciate it. I can't donate the money back to you. So I appreciate the $5. Look, we already talked about the Rome situation. We talked about if what people think was said is true.
I have no idea what you're even talking about. I don't look into any.
You and I talked about it briefly where you said in word association, it is the person asking the questions who asks in the order. It's not Rome who gives the order. So this might have just been a random fluky thing. I have no idea, but I know people are hating on Rome here. I'm not going to read this out loud. So I just wanted to address that because it was a super chat. I can't help myself here. I got to make sure I address those. I think that's like a law on YouTube. But essentially, Will, I do agree with what you're saying. We are seeing unique things this season. And when you go back, and 46 might have been a little bit more exciting for people because we were watching players with idols get voted out over and over and over and over and over again, which was fun, especially because so many of those players were so cocky. Q, Venus, Tiffany, Hunter. It's fun to watch those types of players get blindsided with an idol in their pocket, right? But this really is from Operation Italy to what Rachel pulled on Andy at this vote, to then Sam and Genevieve making this pitch, even though we know that it wasn't actually gameplay.
And they're voting for each other. Like, it's not like they even tried to come up with a pitch. Sam's like, no, like, get Genevieve out of here. She doesn't have an idol. And they still don't believe him. It's just, it's good.
So, God, it's crazy to me. Here's my question to you. Were you surprised that the pitch that was made after this tribal council was, we thought of it on the way to tribal council? Andy claims he changed his mind on the way to tribal, and it accidentally worked out this way.
So yeah, this was part of, and I texted you right when the episode started. This whole first segment before we get to the first challenge was so good. It was so funny, and it was because they come back and they're still in game mode. Like usually after tribal council, like the dust has settled a bit. People, you show your cards, you show who you voted with, you show what plans you had, and you come back and you got to face the consequences and own up to it. Here, it's like Genevieve and Sam still putting on a show, and Andy putting on the show as if this was a sole rogue vote by Andy, and he didn't know that they were both voting Caroline. And Sam and Genevieve are kind of like playing into this. That, yeah, like it was kind of accidental because she didn't trust me. I told her to play her idol, but she didn't, because they wanted to keep this fake idol story going. Again, super unique. I don't know if we've seen anything like this. Now, I imagine at some point, you're really in heat of the moment there. But did Teeny really believe that Andy decided?
Yes,
to
because
just,
she
hold on.
says it again
Right.
at tribal.
But that he on a whim decided to flip, and he just happens to write down Caroline. That's the name that Genevieve and Sam both put down. Or I guess the story being sold here is like Genevieve and Sam making their plea. We're writing Caroline, please, please, please flip us. He says, I don't know, I'll decide at tribal, and then he does it on a whim on his way to tribal. Is that kind of the story? Because he had to have known where to put the one vote.
Exactly. And that's where I think that this game ran circles around Teeny. And yeah, Captain Obvious says it right here. Teeny believes whatever she is told in the moment. I think that Teeny came into this game a little naive. I mean, Teeny's 22, 23 years old coming out to play this. A lot of people 22 or 23 years old are naive. At least she's a part of the season, right? Like we've seen a lot of these 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds go out there and do absolutely nothing. And I think Teeny was just a little naive here. And so Teeny goes out there, and it like logic has disappeared from Teeny. Teeny's been duped so many times on this season.
I burnt the paper is another example.
Dude, and like that's the thing.
Why would you burn the paper?
I think that Teeny just got lied to so many times, probably didn't have this life experience of like needing to be able to read people in that way. And so anything sounded good to Teeny at the moment. Because when Teeny sits down at tribal and says, I think this accidentally happened, you're like, wow, Teeny really believed that. She really, really, really believed that this was an accidental vote out, which everybody else has to be sitting there saying there's no way. And Rachel even says, no, Andy flipped. Like that's what happened. There's nothing accidental. Andy flipped. That's what happened. So I just like, I feel for Teeny right now. I know she's going through it. I know that she's always loved Survivor. This has been a dream of hers. So I'm not, I get it. This sucks when this is how your story is going to go. We've seen this with other people like Ben and Owen and Jake, not to maybe this level of like naivete or gullibility, but still, I just think that that's why this worked so well, is because Andy, Sam, and Genevieve were able to pitch this to Teeny, who was going to believe anything they said. And because of that, they didn't even have to come up with that good of a story. Because then what's crazy is, I was talking about this with Owen on this last week's predictions and power rankings. I was saying, well, Teeny's probably going to go back and make it a 3-3, or Teeny will make it a 4-2 to try to get Rachel to play her block a vote. Teeny doesn't even consider it. She just says, yeah, no, I'm over with them now. And there was never even a thought of like, I'm going to go back to the other side. I thought that was absolutely shocking to me. And I totally thought that Teeny was going to at least do something, but I think she just never got her footing ever. And so, yeah, I don't even know where that's going. It's just, there's two things that are crazy to me. One, it's crazy to me that Andy saying, I thought of this on the way to tribal worked. Two is that Teeny never even considered going back and playing with Sue and Rachel.
The second one I'm not that surprised by. I think that felt a little bit like that made sense, even like looking ahead. And I said this last week, Phil, I was like, I think Rachel winning immunity was going to be, maybe it could have potentially been, obviously she wins another one that she desperately needed. But that Rachel winning immunity last week could have been like the downfall of her game, because it was her second immunity in a row, raising her threat level. And it meant that because she was safe, she was not going to use her block of vote. And that's what allowed Operation Italy to even go off. If again, like we had talked about this, if Rachel's vulnerable at the Operation Italy Tribal Council, then she likely either plays her idol or uses her block of vote, probably the block of vote. In that Teeny getting back, you just had 3 people vote together that are talking on the beach, Andy, Genevieve, Sam, and you have Sue and Rachel, and one of them is an enormous threat. And that's been made very clear. And now it's 3-3. So either you're going to go to rocks 3-3 against this other
Well, no,
threesome?
because she has
It's
the
like
rock vote, and you know that, so it would be 3-2.
true.
You would have to
Okay,
vote for her, yeah.
true. But I think at this point you're like, well, Rachel is so far ahead of me game wise that you don't want to sit next to you don't want to sit next to Rachel at the end. And so it made complete sense for me that Teeny instantly was like, I need to adapt. I need to jump ship, because her alliance of Sue and Rachel, that was never going to get her into the end game without sitting next to Rachel, which is what she needs to do.
Yeah. And I think what was tough there, and I guess where I was coming from with it, is Andy, Genevieve, and Sam just made this huge move. So how did Teeny think going with them was going to be better? I mean, it just felt like Teeny at that point, Teeny is drawing dead.
Right. Well, and I was going to lost my train of thought there, but I think another thing that made it easy for Teeny to flip over to that 3 is that the credit for this move was being given to Andy, who at this point was not seen as one of the biggest threats. So we had the threat alliance and the non-threats, literally the names of the alliances, Phil. Threats and underdogs or whatever. And Genevieve and Sam are the threats. And then she's in the underdog alliance. Andy's in that alliance. And then Rachel has been kind of risen out. Okay. Risen up the ranks of that underdog alliance, making herself a threat, so that Andy gets credit for this move. She's not looking at Andy as this like massive threat. So
yeah. Sorry, Will, I lost train of thought. Did you see this?
Whoa. Holy crap.
Maybe Captain Obvious was telling the truth, and that he really was going to get a whole bunch of money because we kept mentioning him. Captain Obvious with the biggest super chat we've ever gotten.
You got to read it,
I got my free one in, so this is just to show appreciation for what you guys do all season. Love you guys. Keep up the good work next season. Thank you, Captain Obvious.
That is very kind.
And then here's another one, though, from, I'm sure this is their real name. Great season. Hopefully Genevieve is back for 50.
I hope so too.
Cherry.
I think we got to give Captain Obvious a round of applause for the super chat and for, watching live every week. There's a few of you who your names are here every week watching live. And that's awesome. We really appreciate it.
And right now we're killing it with numbers again. So if you're new, or if you're just coming back because of last week, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Even if you're one of the Genevieve stans who is pretty much sending me death threats all season, I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm still standing. It wasn't real death threats, guys. I know. But the Genevieve stands pretty much wanted my head on a spike. And I'm just sitting here being like, Genevieve's not going to win. Because I just because I wasn't putting Genevieve on a pedestal so high in the clouds, saying that she was the greatest player of all time and was going to win. I love Genevieve, but I didn't.
She might be the best player of all time.
But I said she never had any winner merit. And guess what, Will? Confessionals. Hold on. I got to do the ear thing. Who can hear me, right? Confessionals. Genevieve didn't have one in an episode. Guess who did? Rachel had one in every episode. Sam had one in every episode. Teeny has one in every episode. Would not be surprised if in some weird situation, it's Sue who actually loses Final Four fire making. And the whole confessional conspiracy I have going on is accurate, because Genevieve didn't get one in episode 2, and Genevieve's not sitting there at Final 3. I've been saying it the whole time, and the Genevieve stans hated me. Andy stans hated me. Everybody hated me, but I'm just a realist. And if this is how it is, this is how it is. Dude, we're in a competition here.
What is going on? This is what I mean when I said this was the finale. This feels like a finale. It feels like we're ending something. We still got 4 players left. I mean, this is insane.
I honestly might just stop the podcast. I mean, Worth Playing For just sent us a big boy here. This is purely to one up Captain Obvious. If anybody wants to one up them both, I'm not going to say no.
Can't say no.
I'm going to say no. But anyway,
thank you. I mean, Worth Playing For. Thank you. This is too kind. We're just 2 guys talking about Survivor.
Just 2 guys talking about Survivor. I'm sitting in a hotel in Disney right now. I should probably say that, because then people are going to be, give me the damn money back. But hey, I could use it right now. I'm sitting in the hotel. Disney's not cheap, that's for sure. And here's Andy Vogel. I'll send you 200 hearts. Andy, you're a patron, buddy. We got you.
That's important.
We got Andy Vogel's credit card information. We're chilling. But anyway, everybody, I don't even know how to get back on track. Will, let's talk about the Final 7 move now, because some people are always going to second guess this, right? Now that this turned out the way it did, where Genevieve and Andy went back to back. Final 7 move. It's still the right move to get rid of Caroline there for Genevieve and Andy and Sam, right? Because if you don't do that, Andy has no merit.
Absolutely for Genevieve and Sam, completely, because if they don't, it's one of them going home, and you're hoping it's the other one. You're hoping it's not you. I could imagine there's some people right now being like, "That's why Andy shouldn't have flipped. Look what happened. He goes home next. Like Rachel takes him out next because he's a jury threat, and a big part of that is because he did orchestrate this move." And I loved Rachel so much, trial counsel, when Jeannie's like, it was kind of this random happy accident of Rachel going home that kind of fell into place. And Rachel just goes, hold on, can I just like say bullshit? Like Andy put this together, and just calls him out. And like, that kind of gave me the hint, like, Andy might actually be going home here. And yeah, Andy puts a big target on his back, but you have to play to win the game. We say that every single time. Like, go out swinging, don't go out, like, because especially Andy, who did start the game almost on like a tier below. Like, everyone starts out kind of neutral. You don't know who any of these people are. Andy on day 3 goes below neutral. He goes like viewed as a GOAT, and we heard it all season. People weren't taking him seriously. But like you said, his arc is he was taken out because he was a jury threat. That is why, the likely winner of this season, who can decide, who dictates who goes home here, when the biggest threat has immunity. Genevieve has immunity. Biggest threat. Who's the next biggest threat? It's Andy.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to that level of being a threat if you don't make any moves. So it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. His fatal flaw was really pitching his kind of final tribal council speech to Rachel. And if he doesn't, Sam goes home. And then likely Genevieve, he probably does the same move that Sam does. If you want to read this, you can. Ash, it's me. I'll read it. I think if Andy doesn't boast to Rachel at 6, Sam goes instead of him. So I think his mistake was tonight, not last week. I agree exactly with that. And I do think Andy then makes a similar play to Sam, where Andy then tells everybody, yo, Genevieve's idol isn't real. Genevieve then goes out at 5, as we saw tonight. And then Andy is in the final 4. Man, one immunity win away from going to the final 3, put Rachel in fire, cross your fingers, or maybe even beat Rachel. I know that might sound asinine, but, did we not hear tonight that Andy has pulled one over on Rachel successfully? I know we hear a lot of people saying, I've lied. Yeah, but what have your lies accomplished? We've had successful lies from Andy over Rachel the entire game, even on Gotta pre-merge. So I think there would be some argument, or it'd be close against Rachel. And it's not like, we're sitting here reading the edit of, the producers knowing what's going to, happen. They know the end of this story. When you're out there, I think Andy versus Rachel is extremely, an interesting final 3. So that was the right move for Andy last week. And also on top of that, even if it isn't, even if you have some argument that it isn't, which I don't think there is, to just go out and pull something off like that, that's so much fun. Like, that's awesome. And your chances, like, especially when your chances are so low of winning anyway, like when you go out in any season, it's a 1 in 18 chance. And the way Andy was sitting after day 3, like, just go make a legendary, iconic move. Like, you'll go down in Survivor history. So I think he'll take it.
And here's what I think was so impressive about the final 7 move that people are going to lose in all of this. And I don't want people to lose this. So that's why I need to highlight it right now. Not only did Andy make that move with the minority, right? He did it as a plurality. He then came back and took the majority. He came back to camp and successfully, with that move, made it a 4-2 advantage. He knew that Rachel had the block a vote. That had come out, right? And Teeny then tells him that or whatever. So he still has a 3-2 advantage. He still has the numbers. He just didn't know she had an idol. And honestly, maybe you should always prepare for an idol, but there's only so much you can do when you're playing Survivor when it comes to idols and different things like that. So for me, when Andy makes this move, he doesn't just make that move at 7. He successfully takes the minority and makes them the majority. And so he goes the next week, but he still almost survived that. And if he didn't get so cocky, if he didn't get that feeling of I'm untouchable, he's going to end up staying in this game and Sam would have gone home. And I think Andy's probably sitting here at final 4 right now.
Right. I don't know if it was out of cockiness. I don't, maybe you could call it cockiness, but I think it's more like getting ahead of himself a little bit. Like, he was making his final tribal council speech too early to a potential juror and not to an actual juror. And I don't think he was trying to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I orchestrated everything, like rubbing it in. I think he was actually trying to do some good jury management because he knows his reputation, the perception of him is in, such a bad place. He keeps hearing, I mean, he's heard it from Genevieve. He's hearing it more from Rachel. I mean, how many times did Rachel
roasted him
was like berating him a little bit. And it's like, man, we know Andy has been dictating so much of this post-merge. We know this isn't true. And that's why I kept getting like, I think Andy might beat Rachel. Like when she was really going hard on him, I really thought this would be included in the Andy wins story. And so I don't know if I'd call it cocky. I'm trying to think of a better word. I just think he got ahead of his skis a little bit. Like he was playing in the future. Like wait to pitch Rachel on how great your game is when Rachel's sitting on the jury. And I know he was trying to get Rachel, like he's playing like the Ponderosa game. I don't think you ever want to be doing that. So let your game speak for itself when you get to the end. Get to the end first, then worry about that.
And here's what I want to say too about how good Rachel is, because as soon as like now that it looks like Rachel's going to win, people are like, I don't know if she's actually that good, like maybe where's she going to be as a winner, all of that stuff. But here's how good Rachel is. She sat on the beach and she told Andy over and over again, nobody, they think you're a nothing burger. You have no chance. You are done. Like you can't win this game. You need to make another move. Even with this move that you just made, one of the best moves we've ever seen. We do not think that you have any chance to win. And I'm telling you that. And that got in Andy's head to the point where he felt that he needed to convince her. And it's like he played right into her hands. He felt that he needed to convince Rachel before she went over to the jury and said to the jury everything that she said to him on that beach, which is no chance of winning. To me, that's just brilliant. And her strategic game all night was just really all season. It's been top notch. It's why Saul ultimately gave her the advantage so that she could leave the one tribal council. I just think that what she said to Andy got in his head, and Andy then started looking, and it's, look, I mean, we're fans of successful football teams all of a sudden. The Lions go and they play the Jaguars. I'm more nervous about that game than if they're playing the Packers the next week, because you look past the Jaguars. You don't look past the Packers. And he looked past somebody that he thought was dead. And so whether it's cockiness or not, it was just this feeling of, I've already defeated you. I don't need to worry about it anymore. But I do agree. It's not like he's sitting there like,
I don't think he was like showboating. I think he was like, hey, like Rachel, when you're at the jury, like I've actually done a lot of these things. And he was, and I think it wasn't like he was just kind of delusional in all the things he's done, because if he was, Rachel would be like, okay, whatever, dude, I'm going to still vote out Sam. Rachel's like, oh crap, Andy's got a hell of a story. So, yeah, I mean, how about Rachel in that first sequence too? A little spy shack action.
Dude. Rachel going down to the beach and just laying there while they were talking. I mean, that's the part you could almost say was cockiness, right? Like they're assuming Rachel's just back at the beach, crying to herself. Her and Sue are sitting up there. Oh, darn, this is bad. And they're sitting on the beach, like around the campfire, just being like, it felt like an 80s movie where it's like the villains are just sitting around like talking, and here comes Sylvester Stallone to go kill them all. Like it was so well done. And for her to not say anything, for her to just lay there and take that information and realize, I don't have Teeny, I don't have Andy, everybody is spilling everything about me. Like it was just so well done. I was very happy about that.
And then such a great part of why I love that so much, and again, why I love this episode, is that Rachel is spying on this, newfound foursome that's now suddenly together. But half of the conversation is Genevieve, Sam, and Andy lying to Teeny, and then Rachel taking that as truth when they're talking about her idol. And then Rachel goes, okay, well, now I know 100% that Genevieve does have an idol, when she absolutely doesn't. That was a really fun part of that, where we had a spy overhearing basically three other spies that are lying to someone's face. So again, fresh, unique, entertaining Survivor.
Yeah, I mean, that was an awesome scene, and really good job by the editors and the production team that's out there to like capture all of that, where, we have the, like she said, you get the infrared, you get the, the night vision, and there's Rachel like trying to crawl, but doesn't have any confidence in where she is. And if she goes stumbling out accidentally, like they're going to spot her. And I thought that was really fun how they turned the camera light off and just made it a pitch black screen. So you just heard it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I don't think they turned the camera light
But you know
off.
what I
think
mean.
they cut to a black card.
They cut to a black card, but that's essentially what she said.
No, I know they were. No, they were. And honestly, that fluctuates too. Like the moon controls the entire lighting. Because like if there's a new moon, it is absolutely pitch black. A full moon, you can't hide at all. Rachel would not have been able to even hide because it's actually super bright. Like it's brighter than you can, even it's not dark at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I thought that was cool. I mean, really just like, you texted me and said the opening was, so much fun. And like, really this was just a really fun episode. And look, I don't know how I'm going to go into next week and not be a little disappointed if it just is straightforward.
I want Genevieve to win or Andy.
Should bring her back. But
where's Redemption Island? Do we have Edge of Extinction?
It's tough, right? Because I'm so happy with this. And I know, like you said, like, let's celebrate tonight. But then, we're at the 41-minute mark of this podcast. You do have to start looking forward a little bit. And like, so on Monday night, because we're not gonna be able to podcast Sunday, so we're gonna podcast Monday. And I had texted in the group chat. We'll find out if Will ever read my group chat text, but it's supposed to be me, Will, Alexa, and Blake, all four of us.
Whoa.
What are we talking about?
I know if Alexa's back, maybe just get her thoughts on the season. Don't let me and Blake.
Well, her and Blake are podcasting tomorrow doing Digging Deeper because I'm out. So I don't know if Blake can get that out of Alexa. I don't know if he's become that type of host yet, but maybe he's going to get those answers anyway. I mean, on Monday, we might just be talking about Survivor 50 or 48. Maybe we go pull up the Redmond cast off of Inside Survivor and we just start talking Survivor 48 because it's going to be tough. And I mean, I will obviously do some jury roulette for if Rachel is sitting next to Sam, because I really think that's the only question mark going into that episode. But I think it just shows, like, I don't know. It was just a really strong episode all around. Really was.
Right. I think strong, as good of 2 hours of Survivor as you might ever get. Maybe not ever, but like, top tier, top 1% of Survivor episodes. Yet its result on the season, I think, will, it overall probably hurts the season.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because does it hurt the season, or can people, when people go to binge this, will they just look at it? If it's finale part 1 and finale part 2, did Survivor actually do a good job by saying that? Because it's like, well, the first half of the finale was great, and then we just watched Rachel win. Because if you do watch this back to back as, a 3-hour episode, I know it's 4 hours, but with commercials, it's like 3 hours. It's probably going to be perfect television. It's just a shame we have a break in the middle. Now, granted, maybe we end up in a situation where we get Rachel losing at Fire, but there's really no drama around who would win in that final 3 either, because Sam would clean up.
Yeah, I don't know a final 3 that would be unsurprising in any form.
It would just be Sam versus Rachel, but I just.
But that's not even. I think Rachel wins in a landslide.
Yeah,
Rachel wins in a landslide if she's there. Sam wins in a landslide if Rachel isn't there. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong. We could get something bananas. We could get something crazy, but it doesn't feel like it. It felt like the threats to Rachel were Andy and Genevieve. That's kind of where I was at. They're gone.
Yeah. All right. Let's give like the flowers to Genevieve and Andy here. Let's start with Andy, because Andy, we already talked about with his day 1 meltdown and everything like that. Do you think we're going to get to see more players like Andy on the show, or do you think more people are going to be the first half of Andy? Like, do you think that they're going to try to find another Andy because of how much he was beloved by the fan base and how much his turnaround was there? Or do you think that ultimately, like, they're going to realize that most Andys are going to fizzle out after the first episode or 2, and like, it's not worth putting them on?
I don't know. I don't know if Andy intrinsically is any different than their casting that they've been doing. I think they're going to keep casting with the same type of people that are all, they're looking for super fans, basically fans that love the game, that know the game, that are going to play really hard and care a lot about it. And I think it's about, how many of those are you going to hit on having really entertaining stories and really entertaining characters? The only reason Andy has such a breakdown on day 3 is because he cares so much about the game. So if you keep casting people that care about the game, they're going to break down, and when they fail, when they don't succeed, and they're going to have trials and tribulations and have to overcome them. And I think we've seen that on Survivor for a while, but now it really means more to these people, because we're dealing with lifelong dreams here. We're not dealing with people that are like, oh, I'll go try and win $1 million. I guess I'll take a shot at it. I haven't seen the show. Like, that's not the people we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are very passionate about it. So I think as long as they're casting that way, then you're at least like opening up the door for those opportunities to come.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I went to go on Survivor Wiki here, not Wikipedia, and
Or some confessionals, or
the whole computer is now exploding in front of me. I was trying to find out how many votes Andy got. Andy only got 5 votes cast against him the entire season. That kind of blows my mind with what a punching bag he was for so much of it. But yeah, I agree. I feel like you can't go to try to cast another Andy, because I do feel like Andy is so unique. I feel like most people who went through what Andy went through on day one would never be able to bounce back and ever gain control in the way that Andy gained control. And he did control a solid portion of this game. He was one of the most, he was one of the most dominant players there was. But then you get to Genevieve, and Genevieve, it's like I thought there was a really great line in here from Genevieve. And I don't like to break people down into like what they are at their most basic by like, skin color and all of that. But it's like Genevieve had a line in here tonight where she said, me and Rachel both being women in our early 30s who are, semi-professional, just dominating this game and going head to head. I just love that so much. And I do feel like there was something refreshing about seeing Genevieve versus Rachel for so long that we haven't seen in other seasons. Where a lot of times it does come down to like the roosters going at it, right? Like it's the two big dogs. They're going to go at it. And this was such a different variation of that, but these two players just played it so well. And I feel like I do think casting is going to try to look at that and say, okay, where can we find another Genevieve Mushelak? Because people loved her. And I think the fan response to her has just been so strong straight up through the end, through how she went home. The fact that she wins immunity at final 6 to stay alive, 1 extra vote, and then at 5 seems like she almost might pull something off.
Almost pulled it out, man.
Yeah,
that would have been incredible. If Genevieve somehow won this season, it would I mean, maybe be even a top 5 season. Like, that would be so insane. I've been a Genevieve fan this entire season. I mean, ever since that, what was it, episode 4? Episode 3? The Keyshawn move.
Keyshawn was episode 4. Yep.
And I don't know what it. And I maybe I can put my finger on it. Maybe I can try, but it seems like there's just this intangible way of her speaking and like her confessionals, and she's so relaxed. And she's like, maybe the word is just like cool. Like, she's just playing it cool. Like, she's suave. Somehow, and that's fun to watch. Again, I can't quite explain it. Are the fan like, does everyone loves Genevieve? That's the consensus on the internet.
Genevieve.
Okay, good. Because I don't know. Again, I don't know what that, but like I'm like, I was rooting for her harder than I've rooted for a Survivor player in seasons, like in so long. Probably since Jesse at like Fire Making in 43. I was like, Genevieve, come on, please find a way out of this, and I don't even know. I guess Kim would be like the comp to her.
That's who people are saying.
That's like
Kim.
The comp, yeah. But I feel like they're different in a way. I don't know what it is, but
I understand.
Great player.
I feel like I understand. I understand where people are coming from with the Kim comp, because like, I mean, first of all, their physique is very similar too. So that always helps when people want to initially make that. But like, Genevieve played such a confident, cool, and collected game. And honestly, like when we saw Kim play in Winners at War, when things started to fall apart from her, we saw her get a little like, we see like those cringy moments from Kim. I always think about the one part on the beach where she's essentially begging to stay in the game. And I still love Kim, but like, Genevieve proved on this season that when the numbers go against her, she'll find a way to navigate it. And she should have went home at final, 8? Was that what it should have been? Saul went home. She should have went home at final 9. And instead she made it all the way to 5th. That's pretty freaking incredible for a player who the target was so obviously on. And I do think Rachel so I just wanted to bring this up too, and I totally forgot, but as we're talking about Genevieve, a lot of people were wondering, should Rachel go after Genevieve in this moment? What if Genevieve has an idol? I think Rachel goes after Genevieve no matter what, because Rachel knows that if she doesn't win immunity at Final Four, she's making fire no matter what. So make it so that you're not making fire to go sit next to Genevieve potentially.
Right.
Make it so you're making fire to win Survivor.
Right. No. I actually loved this Rachel Genevieve duel, but it's almost like it came up in the second hour of tonight, and then now it's over. Like it's not like, I know Rachel at the confessional was like, yeah, the past couple days we've been dueling, but for us it felt like, okay, this has kind of been an hour-long rivalry that could have been something great. Like it could have been this rivalry going into the finale, going into final tribal council if they're both sitting at final three. And yeah, it's a bummer that we didn't get to see that, and then it came a little short.
I want to bring up one more thing too, because it's definitely got to be brought up, and we almost went the whole episode without it. When they go to the reward at the sanctuary,
I have something. I thought you were going to bring up something way different.
Okay, but I want to bring up the reward at the sanctuary when Teeny gets drunk. Teeny and her wine. I said we need Teeny and her wine. She gets as much wine as she wants, and then Carl gets as much beer as he wants, and the two of them then schoolyard pick the tribes for Survivor 50. That's what I want Survivor 50 to be now. I've totally decided. But she starts drinking her wine, which we know Teeny loves her wine. We've seen that a lot on this season. Will, you love your wine. I had some wine earlier. That's good night.
Wow.
But so we see Teeny then spill. Oh, by the way, Genevieve, I can't believe you didn't play your idol. And Sue is sitting right there. And then we get the confessional from Genevieve, like, please keep doing it. Make them
so good.
It's so good that Genevieve just had things working in her favor, even when she didn't mean to. And it's like being a baseball player. Just put the ball in play. Just don't strike out. And that's what Genevieve was doing. She was just putting the ball in play ever since the Saul moment. And other people were making the mistakes, and Genevieve was benefiting from it. And it was so great to see it be like, oh, Teeny can't believe she slipped up. And Genevieve's like, thank you. Thank you. This is awesome.
No, that was good. That was such a good confessional. And yeah, again, that whole, there's a fake idol in her. It's getting spilled at a reward over alcohol and wine, that she has a fake idol. And it's like, even that we haven't really seen before. So yeah, this episode brought it in. And I thought the thing I thought you were going to, Phil, was Rachel. What does she do after she wins immunity at Final Five?
What does she do? She hugged Jeff.
She hugs Jeff. I mean, this is the most hug-friendly season that we've maybe ever. Maybe in Survivor
history.
That
makes it 5. 5 of 18.
5 of 18.
Third of the cast.
And we're not done.
No. Can anybody who's still left get it? Sam and Teeny have not hugged Jeff yet.
Sam and Teeny. I mean, if either of them wins Final Four immunity, they're probably hugging Jeff, right?
I think Teeny would 100%. Teeny wins that. That's going to feel like the one moment where she had control. It would be pretty crazy if Teeny won, because that would so closely parallel like Ben last season and
or Jake.
Yeah, when Jake did it. But did Jake win Final Four?
No, he won Fire Maker.
He won Fire. That's right. That's right. He won.
And
Fire.
that was like the one thing he won.
Final Four challenge.
Yeah, he wanted to be in fire making.
Yeah, for Teeny, I hope that she gets that win. Needs that win, right? Needs that win. But yeah, we got the hug from Genevieve. 5 players hugged. And you want to hear something crazy, Will? Do you know what Sue Smay did that Andy did not do?
10 confessionals in an episode?
10 confessionals in an episode. Andy never got it, and Sue hit it tonight, getting 11. That blows my mind.
It's pretty crazy.
That's crazy. We also had Rachel hit it tonight and Genevieve. Neither one of them had hit it previously. So they both.
And we're counting tonight's 2 hours as separate from next week, right?
Separate from next week, but it is just one episode. Like this, the whole
tonight
2 hours
was one
episode. Yep. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So we had those hit. We also had more than 4.5 players got 60 plus confessionals officially. So that's another win there for the over under game. We're going to have a bunch more things obviously come to fruition next week. But I think votes lost throughout the season. That one's not particularly close to 5.5. We'll get the age of the winner. Will's going to let us know about how many black shirts Jeff has worn. So we'll have all of that. But right now there's actually only been 5
a black shirt today during the intro.
He did.
He walked through tribal council set.
Yeah. We know we're not going to get a medevac or a quit at this point, right? Are we going to get an Eric Reichenbach to start next week's episode?
Crazy.
That would be a brutal finale if it starts with somebody being medevac at Final Four and we don't even get fire. Brutal.
A couple other orders of business here. What was going on with the block a vote? How does that work? How do you play it?
I wanted to,
Like,
I texted
like
you that.
what?
I
I was like, wait a second. Rachel's like, I'll play it on Sam, and he just goes up, and there's no vote. And like, when shouldn't she have to play that
I
publicly?
I had texted you to say, don't let me forget this, and thank
That's
you for
why
not
we're
letting me, because
55 minutes
I
in, and
forgot,
I got you,
baby.
Phil.
Yeah, you better believe I forgot. That was my biggest question. They said that she would play it and then the person would just go up and find it. She never made the announcement to the tribe. She never made the announcement to anybody. Did she have to vote before Sam in order for this to be eligible? Like, is it like a different kind of vote where you have to like plop it in? What was that?
But the vote order can never matter
yeah.
in advantage, because if I'm seated in a different seat, and the seat is basically based on storyline and height, like you can't let that play a factor. And so it can't be like you go up and play it before they vote and you play it privately. It basically, Phil, is they play it to a producer off camera, which we've never seen
Very weird.
anything like that before.
Yeah. How do you feel
I
about
was like, I hate it. You
yeah.
should, like, since when can you just play something to a producer?
Is this
And if
accurate,
you,
Noah Salmon?
I mean, he says Noah Salmon here, it was done in a confessional then, but it's, if it was, don't you think they would film it and then put it on the paper, on the parchment, like, to play this, you must, it should be like this: before you go to tribal council, write the name on the rock like an idol nullifier and put it in tree mail, because I don't know.
I'm sure that Dalton Ross is going to ask Jeff about that. He's normally pretty good about that kind of stuff. So
it feels like this is so off brand for
yeah.
Survivor.
And if Dalton doesn't ask, I'm sure it'll come up on the On Fire podcast. So maybe I'll actually have to listen to that this week, because I do think we need to get an answer as to how that went down, because I was so confused, because it really was. I'm like, oh yeah, she obviously is playing it for Sam. And then Sam goes up and he's like, oh yeah, I don't have a vote. And I was like, wait, when did that happen? Like, when did that become a thing?
Especially, and maybe this is balancing the advantages, especially because we already have two other advantages that work in somewhat similar way, in a steal a vote and an extra vote. I guess an extra vote doesn't really work. You just pull it out at tribal council. But a steal a vote, you have to announce to everybody, I'm stealing your vote. And maybe to make this a little bit more powerful is like, you don't have to play it in publicly. But if you're not playing it in public, show us how they play it. I've never seen anything like this ever in Survivor. Is there any comp to this where someone plays an advantage off air to a producer?
I got to actually think about it, and that's going to
cause but so I really don't think there is, because if there were, I wouldn't have this like visceral misunderstanding of why it was played this way.
Yeah,
it feels wrong.
No, because even like a shot in the dark, we don't actually see them play it. Well, no, they do, because they get up and they play it afterwards. So what am I talking about?
And it's okay if you're going to omit them playing some advantage for suspense, that's fine. And we at least know how they play it. Like with the shot in the dark, sure, we know how people play their shot in the dark.
I think this is a good point.
Productions. Well, of course, what if Rachel changes her mind at tribal council? That's part of the deal then. But when did she play it? We don't know when she said, I'm blocking Sam's vote. So, I mean, sure, you should be able to use it up until the votes are, until players are going to go cast the votes. If you have to do it earlier, you're losing that time where you could have a tribal council discussion. It could become a live tribal, and you could be like, hey, wait a second, I want to actually block this player's vote instead of this player's. But if you're but it's mysterious. We weren't told as an audience how it was being played. So we're really going into this topic. I don't know.
I'm trying to find an answer. I'm trying to Google it. Nothing has said anything. Nothing yet.
Zach here has a great point. We need a screenshot of the actual advantage rules, because it should say on there, this is how you play it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to see. Let's see. Block.
Captain Obvious says they know who has what. they do know who has what, but how does who play what? How does Rachel play a block a vote?
You got the whole Abbott and Costello thing going on here. They know who has what, but how does who know who has
How
what?
do we as an audience know when who plays what? When Rachel plays this block a vote?
Yeah. And somebody down here, RZ, says Rachel votes first then. It's like, but they can't have Rachel go first every time before Sam, because then that tips off maybe the rest of the people that she has something.
Here we go. I think I found it.
Uh-oh, we got Will.
Congratulations. You have earned the block a vote advantage. When it's time to vote, simply announce that you have an advantage you want to use. You will then declare which player you want to block from casting a vote. That person will not vote. The last time to use this advantage can be when there are 6 people left in the game. This advantage extends through a tie. Okay. Except I don't know if this is...
That might not be this season, because
it might not be this season.
That didn't happen.
But, okay. So this season it's played differently and we weren't told? I mean, it's either that or they didn't air it. So
that would be weird to not air it. And I mean, Sam looked like he knew it was coming, but why wouldn't Sam know it was coming? And also in this situation, there's no drama around how this is going to impact the vote, because we all know that Rachel's ultimately going to play her idol. So if we already, like, that's the way the show was being edited, was that we were going to know that Rachel was going to play her idol. So there's no point for the editors to leave that out. Yeah. And then here you go. JBB Productions again. When Elaine played it, she had to play it publicly. So she did play it publicly.
Yeah. So that must be the one I'm reading.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's do some sleuthing. And I know we're over an hour here, so we can wrap this up.
Yeah, you sleuth while you sleuth.
I'm gonna sleuth. You kind of do your wrap up here. What episode did she get the block a vote?
That was 3 episods ago. Final 8.
Flipping the win switch, perhaps.
I think she got it at final 8, right? God, I can't remember that far back.
Oh yeah, I found it.
Okay, you found it. Okay, I'm just gonna read through some things while you look for that. Then, Sue, Genevieve, Rachel. I said that they all got 10 or more confessionals this episode. This is for everybody playing the prop bet game. We had those. Andy had a confessional in every episode. Genevieve did not, as I have highlighted numerous times on this podcast. Andy got 5 or fewer votes. Genevieve ended up with 9, so she does not land anywhere in our props. Rachel cried today. Who said bob and weave? That was the name of the episode. Does anybody remember when somebody said bob and weave? If anybody wants to look that one up.
I was actually surprised I didn't catch that.
Rachel says it was Genevieve. She's sitting right here and she says it was Genevieve. And now other people are saying Rachel. So look at that. Look at that. Oh, worth playing for. Oh, somebody's saying it was Teeny. Oh my God. So now nobody actually knows. Nobody actually has the answer to this question. Like I said, so Sam right now has 83 confessionals, Rachel 78, Andy had 70, Teeny 64, Genevieve 62. So 5 players hit 70 or more. Bob and weave was tree mouse. So then it would have had to have been, it was Teeny who said it then. That's so funny. So Teeny breaks Andy's streaks of episode titles by reading tree mail.
Okay. I got Rachel's advantage here.
All right, good. You saved me from
I got
boredom.
the text. Congratulations. You know how power in the game. This advantage allows you to secretly block a vote from another player. Secretly, keyword. Before leaving for tribal council, you must declare which player you want to block from casting a vote. That person goes to the... I can't read her fingers in the way. Their vote has been blocked, but they will not know by who. This block vote extends through a tie and revote. The last time you can play this game is when there are 6 players left in the game. Okay, so you just declare it before. I mean, they should make this. Just do tree mail. Put it into tree mail. Write a name, give it a.
And then you can have the moment of her walking over to it, so we know that she played the block vote.
Yeah.
But it's like, who'd she play it on? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That's just so bizarre.
Yeah,
they've never done this. Declare. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. That's going to wrap it up. We're going to be back on Monday. Will, you're doing the after show tomorrow? Are you and Blake doing the after show? What's the Patreon after show? Is it you? Is it Blake? Is it you and Blake?
Think it's Blake and myself on the after show.
Okay, so Phil's after show becomes Blake and Will's after show. So you guys will be doing that for Patreon. Our next Cook Islands episode comes out tomorrow. Alexa and Blake will be live on YouTube tomorrow night, digging deeper at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then all four of us will be back on Monday. Time yet to be determined. I got to drive back from Orlando that day, so it'll be sometime in the evening after Alexa gets off work. So we will figure that out. We will get all four of us on there, and then Will and I will be recapping the finale on Wednesday. That's crazy that the finale is here. This has been a really, 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 really fun season. I really do like it. And so thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Think about becoming a patron, patreon.com/a specialist. We're doing a 50% discount for one more week for new signups. A couple people have taken advantage of that. So go ahead and get in there and you can get all of our fun stuff that we have going on over there. I'm almost done with 2019 Australian Survivor. The final episode will come out next Friday. So that'll be fun. But yeah, that's it. That's it. St. Cliffo says it's so worth it. Yes, it is. Or you can just hit us with super chats the size of worth playing for and Captain Obvious. And honestly, all of it. Shane Cup, worth playing for, James Baker, Buster Cherry. Yeah, that's what his name is. That's it. Love you guys.
Yeah, thank you again to Worth Playing For and Captain Obvious. Appreciate the support. That means a lot.
Yeah, those are huge. So thank you all so much and good night.
See ya.